Slack and you Major welcome you to the My Type of Hype podcast, where we celebrate hip-hop, not just the hype.
How y'all feel out there? Oh, yeah.
Welcome back, everybody. Yet another episode of My Type of Hype podcast with me, your boy Slack in the building, as always. And right next to me, my co-host extraordinaire. What's happening, brother?
Very good, man. E Major in the house. My Type of Hype, the podcast that celebrates hip hop and not just the hype. Slap, what are you saying? Good?
All good, bro. Can't complain whatsoever. Life is good. Hope all is well with you and yours, as always. Digging into the topic this week, bro. What we got? What's happening?
Yeah, man. So as you know, we like to chop it up and talk hip hop on the timeline regularly. And one of the words that comes up so many times is bias. You see what I'm saying? Not just with like the discussions we have, but just when people are talking hip hop on the timeline, people are always saying there's this bias, there's New York bias, there's old bias, new whatever. Do you know what I mean? So I thought it'd be a good discussion to have about bias and what it is, does it exist, and all that good stuff. So yeah, man, I thought we'd just get into it like that. So I'll read something out before we start, which will be just to set the tone for the topic. So obviously, looking at the topic, understanding bias, to break it down and discuss it, of course, I wanted to pull out the actual official definition of the word bias. Yeah, and what it's saying is an inclination.
Yeah, the thesaurus.
Bro, you know the one trying to educate out here too. You know how it goes. But yeah, so it says an inclination or prejudice for or against one person or group, especially in a way considered to be unfair. So that's the official meaning of the word bias. So yeah, what are you saying, man? What are you thinking? What's bias to you, or how do you see it, man? How do you view it?
Bias to me is blindly following whatever just because. So just because I'm a Londoner doesn't mean that every London rapper is the greatest rapper who ever rapped. No. I would have bias against like a football team. So obviously I'm an Arsenal fan, so I want Arsenal to win every game. That's natural. That's sport. When it comes to music, I don't have any biases whatsoever. I like music from all coasts. I like music from all country, well, a load of different countries. So I don't care where the music comes from. If it's good and I like it, then it's good. I don't care if the rapper's from Mississippi. I don't care if they're from New York. I don't care if they're from Chicago. I don't care if they're from London, Manchester, Birmingham, Africa. I don't care. If the music is good, then the music is good. Bias to me was always weird because it's like people say, "Oh, you can't talk about hip hop because you're not from America." It's like, oh, okay. So maybe if that's the case, then maybe when they make their albums or whatever, maybe they should only sell them to people like within like a 5-mile radius. So those people could then talk about it. Because if people outside of their borough or outside of the country can't talk about it, then I don't know. But it's funny because they'd say that, but then if someone from New York says, I don't know, 50 Cent is the greatest rapper who ever lived because they're from New York and that's their bias, someone from the South will say, oh, how dare you say that? You're only saying that because he's from New York. But then you ask that person from the South, who's your favorite rapper? And they'll be like, Pimp C. So they'll be like, oh, but then isn't that biased then? So it's all ridiculous to me. Like, it's just all pathetic stuff. Like grown adults like arguing over who's from where, and it just doesn't make any sense to me personally. But yeah, I love all coasts, all countries, whatever. If it's dope, it's dope. So that's biased to me. What about you, bro?
I agree. Like I said, man, we're always seeing the word come up. We got to a point, I ain't gonna lie, not now. We've got to a point sometimes when you're talking about your favorites. Like everyone knows, like Jay-Z's my favorite rapper, right? Has been for obviously years. But there's the bias isn't there. If he's on a track and he's got the worst verse, I'll say his verse was the weakest.
Right.
But people will assume that, not you say, as a good example, people will say, I prefer Takeover to Ether because Jay-Z's my favorite. No, it's just a better song to me.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
But so people, you know what I mean? You gave a good example with the football, with Arsenal. Same. As you know, I'm not into football hard like that, but if I had to say a team that I do follow or support, I use the word support loosely, it would be Arsenal, and has been since my school days. But as most of you know, I'm from Tottenham, born and bred in Tottenham. So even though I'd say Arsenal is a team that I would want to win, it's a weird one because I've always got this little affection for Tottenham. I don't have the hatred for Tottenham like a lot of Arsenal supporters do, because I'm from Tottenham. So there's something that's in me that likes to see the home team do well because it's where I'm from. You see what I'm saying? So when we looked at what the bias is and all that, when it spoke about the unfair prejudice and favouring one thing or another, like you said with the 50 and the Pimpsy, it doesn't matter what they bring to the table. It doesn't matter how they do it or what they put out there. You're always going to favour it unfairly. That's bias. That's how I'd see it. You know what I'm saying? There's a difference between bias and coincidence. And this always made me laugh. One time, I can't remember who it was now, but someone on the timeline one time was talking about different songs, different artists, and was asking our favourites from them. And majority of the ones I picked were actually out of the choices that were given, but Jay-Z songs. And someone in the group was like, "Oh, how coincidental that you're picking majority Jay-Z." I was like, "Well, it's not a coincidence because he's my favorite rapper. So that means I prefer his styles." You know what I'm saying? That's why he's my favorite, because I prefer majority of what he's dropping. You know what I'm saying? So it's like people seem to think like you lose points or credibility for making a beeline for the thing that you prefer. We have preferences for a reason, but we'll get into that a little bit deeper into the episode. But yeah, that's how I understand bias to be something that's unfair. You know what I mean? Where there's no consideration into the product that's been put out. It's just simply, oh, it's there. So
therefore I like it.
Exactly. So yeah, in music, sports, yes, of course. You know what I mean? Especially if it's your home team or your favorite team or whatever. Yeah. In music, there's no room for it because shout out to Kill and Apartment 5B family. Remember the episode we was on when we looked at our least favorite projects from our favorite artists or our favorite songs from an artist we don't like. Do you know what I mean? It's music. So you could not like an artist, but they're always going to have the potential to drop a song, a verse, or even an album that you like. But it don't mean that you're necessarily a fan of that artist, but we recognize something for being good, whether we like them or not. That's unbiased. Exactly. You know what I'm saying? And it's missing. It's not present enough. People just want to argue. You just want to argue too much. Do you know what I'm saying?
They do, man. Like you could put up a tweet and say, I don't know, you could list like 10 people.
Yeah.
The first thing people will say is, "What about? You forgot." I'm like, why don't you focus on what's actually there rather than what's not there? Why are you focusing on what's not there? Because it's not there.
Right.
Let's just focus on what's there, because that's the discussion piece. Don't focus on what's not there because it doesn't make any sense. So I don't get that. The other thing I don't get is people talk a lot about stands, right? There's a lot of talk about stands, how ridiculous they are and this and that. But if you just dick ride anything that comes out of whatever area, then aren't you doing the exact same thing?
Right.
Aren't you doing the exact same thing as someone who loves an artist just because they love that artist? So they love whatever they do. If it's good or if it's bad, they don't care. They're going to ride for it. It's exactly the same. It's on the same lane for me. Like, if you're going to say, I like any music that comes from here, or someone will say, oh, you don't understand because you're not from there. It's like, oh, so if I like music from Compton, do I have to be from there to like it?
Right.
If I like music from New York, do I have to be from there to like it? Like, it's just all these kind of stupid excuses and like things that people put in there to try and make shit more complicated than it actually is. It's not complicated at all. It's just, you know what I mean? If you got a bias, then I don't know. It feels very closed-minded to me. Because it means that you're not. I mean, I've got a lot of family in the States, as everyone knows, but some of them in New York, they would not listen to West Coast music. To this day, there's some of them they would not check for like DJ Quick. They'll be like, what? Nah. That seriously, up to this day, they will still probably not. They might be as a little bit less militant than they used to be. But I tried to get my cousin to listen to I think it was Lethal Injection back in the day. And he was not having it, bro. Like he was not having a bar of it. And when I'm playing, like, you know how we do it, he's like, what's with that noise, bro? Like, bro, you weren't feeling it at all. So I'm like, I don't get it, but I don't know. Maybe it's a bit of tribalism and all of that kind of stuff. But as you said, people use it to argue. And that just doesn't make any sense to me. Like, if you're going to argue over where, like, a lot of MCs as well, they weren't even born where they're repping. Like, Corrupt wasn't born on the West Coast. Tupac wasn't born in California. And all of this. So it's like, oh, where were you born? But a lot of these dudes weren't even born where they're repping. So what are you talking about? You know what I mean? People move, and what if your parents decided that they wanted to move to a better area for you? So they've taken you out of this area, put you in this area. So all of a sudden now you're a sucker because you weren't growing up here. So now you grow up here, which is out of your control. If you're like 10 years old, what you say, no, I'm staying here. No, you got to go, right? You got to move.
Yeah.
So, but I just don't, I don't understand it. I don't get it.
No, definitely. It is that argumentative spirit as well. And even the other day I was putting up, like, I put some of my favorite Nas songs. Yeah. I put thread of some of my favorite Nas songs. And I even put, to make it fair, I'm going to pick no more than 3 from each album, right? Just for fun. And I picked 3 from Illmatic, and I picked a total of like 30, 40 Nas songs spread out from across his albums. Yeah. And then one person was like, this whole thread is invalid because you haven't put One Love on it. And I'm like what you're saying about focusing on what's not there. Do you know what I mean? It's like, no one would say, oh, that's, like, I'm not just saying it. Anyone who follows me will know I'm like, I'd be like, oh, that's interesting. Even sometimes people give kind of like off-key responses to things or choices. I'm like, oh, it's interesting because I love variation. As we spoke when our kids was on, I said, you know what I mean? My younger kids love K-pop. My eldest daughter's into rock and metal. My other daughter's into hip-hop and R&B. I love the variation. You see what I'm saying? I love the fact that it's a eclectic house. You see what I'm saying? Like, I love when people say, oh, this is my favorite song off that album. The other day I put out Infamous Mobb Deep. I said, what's the most underrated song? Because I find it interesting to hear when people are in love with something that never gets mentioned, because I find it interesting to know why. What would you love so much about? You know what I'm saying? Oh, One Love ain't on here. It's invalid. Like, what is it about us that feels that, not us as in us, but people or hip hop sometimes, that feel that we need to literally just go with the majority and everyone must do this or everyone must flow with that or so I'm saying. That UK thing though, that angers me, bro, so much, because hip hop, we know, started in the Bronx or wherever, yeah? It's spread out worldwide. Yeah? And we know, as we've said a few times on the podcast this year, 50th anniversary, do you know what I mean? Watching the BET Awards, seeing the celebration of hip hop or whatever. 50 years of hip hop, yeah? Biggest genre in the world. It's worldwide. We understand that. How are you going to tell a man that you don't really respect his opinion because he ain't from the Bronx or he ain't from New York? You know what I'm saying? It's like, I still grew up listening to the music. Yeah. I might not be able to name the certain, well, not estates, but projects or neighborhoods that you can. You know, maybe I've never stepped foot in those, but does that mean I can't enjoy something as much as you because I'm not from there? You see what I'm saying? It's a bias. It's a closed-mindedness. It makes no sense. But so I was going to ask you actually, so with us understanding what bias is, or looking at our understanding of it, this may be a rhetorical question now, but for the listeners and watchers, would you say that bias actually exists in hip hop?
Yeah, 100%. Like, from what you were just saying, you could say, oh, you're not from the Bronx or whatever, but being between sort of, you know, Brooklyn and London or whatever, there's so many similarities. Like, it's just, it's honestly ridiculous. Like, people from over there, if they step foot outside of New York and they come over here, so many MCs that are coming here, they're like, wow, like London's gritty. If you take them to certain places, they're like, oh, this reminds me of this. This reminds me of this. Oh, there's the Caribbean spot. Oh, there's this. So it's like, if you ain't ever been here, then there's nothing to say. Like, I've been to both places, so I can comment on both. The people that say that shit, they probably never left their borough or their stoop or their state or the country, and they're talking. But yeah, it is what it is. But bias definitely does exist. And as I said at the beginning, it makes no sense because you're accusing other people of being biased because they haven't included your fave or whatever it may be. But then on the flip side of that, if you're expecting them to say that because you're being biased to your own wherever you're from, then you're also being biased. That's what I think gets lost. People will go, oh, you're only going for Jay-Z and Nas because they're from New York. But it's like, oh, so wherever you're going to talk about, you're going to say Gucci or Jeezy or something like that because you're from Atlanta. Is that not the same thing?
Right.
That's the bit that's always puzzled me. Like, I don't know. It's like people don't seem to notice that. Like, you're expressing your own bias by expecting someone to cater to you. Like, I don't tweet for you. I don't talk for you. I don't speak for you. I don't do this podcast. I'll do this to express my opinion.
Right.
So I don't understand why people want to enforce their opinions on other people. Like, the whole thing is a discussion piece, right? So if you have a certain thought about an album or a certain thought about an MC or a certain thought about a concert or whatever it may be, then there should be no whataboutery, or there should be no oh, but this or that, or it should just be, oh, okay, here's why I disagree. Those are all the greatest discussions in the barbershops and all that shit amongst your friends, whatever. Like, it's like, I like this. It's like, oh, but why? Well, what's hot about that? Do you know what I mean? That was when it was fun. But now I don't know where all this stuff crept in from. It's like people, we were saying before on another show, people follow the artist more than they follow the actual music. Which is something that I can't get. I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me.
It's like there's an elitism in it and a hierarchy even amongst utters, listeners and supporters of the culture. Do you know what I mean? But
for real.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely think it exists. I mean, I was laughing. I was watching Drink Champs recently with Genuine, and you know they do the quick time at Slime, and you got a name. They named two artists, and you name the one that you prefer. And there was a couple of times, or one time, I can't remember who the artist was now, but they asked Genuine this person or that person, and he said, "Oh, I want to say this person because it's the home team, innit? They're from the crib, you know." So it's like bias exists because what he was saying is that, well, he's from where I'm from, so I'm going to vote for that person. And so many times, apart from Michael Jackson, it was funny because Noriega said Michael Jackson first, and then Genuine was just like, Michael Jackson. Like, he didn't want to hear him. He just like, Michael Jackson. That made me laugh. But the point I'm making is that there's definitely a bias for the home team or for whatever reason. I understand. But I don't understand it where you would immediately say this person is a better artist, or I prefer this person because they're from here. So what you're indirectly saying,
preference.
No, that's what we're going to break down. But with the bias thing, what annoys me with that is that it's not preference. It's when your reason is because we're both from here, or because blah blah, then it's a bias. If it's I prefer this because I think they're a better rapper, preference. And that's why I think people don't know how to separate many times. You see what I'm saying? I remember when, not that we care about it, but I remember when Meek Mill was having a beef with Drake, and then Will Smith bumped into Drake at some basketball game or something, and he was like giving Drake bare love and that, and he was hugging. And bare people in the comments was like, "Rah, how can Will Smith dap up Drake like that when he's beefing with Meek Mill, who's also from Philly?" Like, maybe he, obviously I don't know, but maybe he knows Meek Mill and can't stand him. Doesn't matter that they're from the same town. You see what I'm saying? It's like people's minds are like, and I'm one of the most loyal people you can meet. I understand loyalty. I'm not talking about loyalty here, but sometimes it's just like, open your mind. It has nothing to do with where you're from or where they're from. You understand what I'm saying? It's like there's no room for that here. And then you're going to be the same people that want to talk about, oh, you only like this because it's from there. You're allowed to be biased, but God forbid anyone else be. Is that what I'm saying?
No, that's so true, bro. Like, imagine all the people that you had beef with back in the day from the same borough as you, right? Now, let's say that they were rappers. You're not gonna back them, are you? Like, because you've got issues with them. So it doesn't matter that they're from the same place as you or that they talk the same language as you or whatever. You don't like them. So if there's someone from South or whatever, and they're better than the people that are from the same place as you, then you're still gonna be like, nah, these guys are better because they just objectively are. And I think objectivity is something that is sorely lacking, because there's sometimes when you get into a conversation and you're just like, I'll just leave it alone because it just starts getting ridiculous. So I just keep it moving. Yeah.
The amount of things I don't even respond to anymore. Like, I don't even know. You'll never see me argue on a timeline. If it's just a dumb, I know who wants to have a hip hop discussion. I'm not closed-minded where I need you to agree with me. That's ridiculous. You get me? I know who enjoys a hip hop discussion, and people that want to argue. I don't have time for them.
Right.
I just won't respond. You know what I'm saying? Because that's not what we're here for. I will discuss, break down, you know what I mean, all day long. I love that. That's what we're doing right here, right now. As we said before, we don't always agree on things. And sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. But we love talking hip hop. You know what I'm saying? How boring would it be if every artist I hated, you hated? Every artist you loved, I loved. Like, you know what I mean? It would be a boring world. But we have to have that sense about us where we can understand the difference between preference and bias.
That is the key right there. Exactly.
That's the key.
I have a preference for live instrumentation.
Right.
So I like production that sounds like musicians were playing it, like live bass, the drums, all of that, the keys. I love that kind of stuff. I prefer a primo beat over a Metro Boomin beat because that's my preference. The sound that I prefer is drums and samples. The 808 stuff is very low vibrational to me. It doesn't move me, doesn't move my spirit at all. The drums and hearing what people have done with samples and like, oh shit, that's what he sampled, that's what he did. Like that is something where it makes it more than just a song, because like when you see Primo like play whatever he sampled and you're like, how the hell did he get that from that?
You don't
like,
hear it.
Yeah, like you don't hear it, and then you see him pick out a little piece of a song, play around with it, whatever that sample was, put the perfect drums to it, put the perfect bass line to it, put your scratches on it, and then make it something completely different. Like that is just amazing to me. But then you've got other producers who might just, I don't know, do something on MPC, blah blah blah, and that's cool. Like some of them are great at what they do, but sound wise, I will go for Primo all day long because my preference is that I want to hear the creativity, the sample, the drums, the scratches, all of that stuff combined in one. That is a preference. I don't have a bias for Primo. I would say he is my favorite producer, but if he does something that is whack, then I'm going to say I don't like it. Redman was my favorite rapper from I was 12 years old until maybe 2021. Nearly 10 years, he was my favorite rapper. Big is my greatest of all time, but Redman was always like whatever he was on. I was looking forward to Redman. I would buy an album if Redman was featured on it. I bought Jamal album because I did like Jamal. Yeah, I did, but I was
alright. Yeah,
I had no expectations of what he could do because I just knew him from Illegal. But I saw Redman had produced the track and was featured on the track, so I put down the money. If he wasn't on it, I would have still probably bought it, but I might not have bought it straight away. I might have waited to get something. Do you know what I'm saying? So for me, when he was ruling the 90s for me, like everything he was killing, features he was killing, albums he was killing, and he was just so like just whatever, Redman. You know what Redman's all about. But then it came to the 2000s, and then he just wasn't as good as he was throughout the 90s, in my opinion. Therefore, I can say, as someone who was a massive or is a massive Redman fan, I can say I didn't like this period of his career because I'm not white. I'm open to say I loved this portion of his career I don't like this portion of his career that much because I can be objective and say, this I loved, this I didn't. But I think the difference is some people be like, oh, everything he did was brilliant. But that's just impossible.
It is. I fully agree. I mean, in the sense of having your preferences, it's so important to understand that we have preferences for a reason. You know what I'm saying? My sort of breakdown understanding of that is obviously when I came into hip hop, East Coast was the thing that I sort of gravitated to more. Yeah, see what I'm saying? Obviously, at the kind of time we came in as well, I should stop saying we, the time I kind of came in as well, West Coast, shortly after that, just ran with it. Yeah. So I've got also a huge love for West Coast as well. South, I ain't gonna lie, took me a lot longer to get into. We've had this discussion before. Yeah, even I know Ghetto Boys and different things like that, but it was actually Outkast, that made me sort of even pay a little bit more attention to the South. I know there were key artists before Outkast, but it was Outkast. I credit them, for me personally, to be the ones that made me pay attention to the South. And I know I'm not going to be alone, because even at the Source Awards, you know what I mean? The South's got something to say. Famous speech from Andre. So we know that a lot of people weren't really on the East Coast or other areas, not really checking for the South. Obviously, we know the South loves the South. We know that. The South supports the South more than any other region supports their own region. You see what I'm saying? You see that because they have a fondness and an appreciation for, quote unquote, the pioneers who made way for the South in hip hop. You see what I'm saying? Whereas New York hip hop is a New York thing, an East Coast thing. So as much as there can be an elitism there, or don't know what word to use, but like an arrogance. Let's be real. There can sometimes be an arrogance from the East Coast. This is ours. Do you know what I mean? Whereas you feel like the other areas might have had to fight a little bit more for that bringing, for that the door to be open.
Right.
So I feel like there's more of an appreciation, especially with areas like the South, for the pioneers. You see what I'm saying? But yeah, going back to what I was saying, the South for me took a little bit longer. But it will always be East Coast for me as a preference. Then West Coast. Then I'd probably say the South and Midwest can kind of go in between, because there's just not as much output from the Midwest as there is from the other. Well, they'll probably kill me for saying that, but for what makes it to my ears anyway. You see what I'm saying? But that's the difference. That's the preference. So yeah, do I prefer a primo beat or Southern producers, or would I prefer, you know what I'm saying, an East Coast producer over maybe a West Coast producer? Probably majority of the time, yes, because it's what I prefer. But I'm never gonna not listen or not appreciate something because it's not primo, or because it's not from New York. You see what I'm saying? And it really, I can't tell you how much it actually annoys me, because it's like, it's such a, seriously, bro, to the point where you end up putting things out or tweet something or blah, 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 and you feel like you've got to put my personal preference all the time. Oh,
you have to
why
put a disclaimer. Yeah.
Oh, you prefer this album over that album? Yeah, because it's my personal preference. Is that what I'm saying? Oh, you got Tupac over blah, blah. He ain't that lyrical. Yeah, personal preference. Is that what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't really change my thing to just, you know what I mean? The personal preference page. It's like, just understand, bro. Like, this is what I prefer. For not dissing anything else. This is my preference. This is what I heard more. This is what I came up on more. Outkast, one of the greatest groups of all time. We know South have got some of the most iconic MCs, groups, producers in hip hop that are staples in hip hop, and we're not taking anything away from them. We're giving them those flowers. But yeah, it's a preference, man, and I don't know what's so hard for people to grasp with that. And that's why I thought it'd be good to talk about that today, because hip hop loves debating. Hip hop loves discussing and just throwing out favorites and this and that. But there's just this thing about people that you give your answers, you give your choices, and it's like preference, man.
Well, there's so much that goes into preference, like down to when you heard something, or what a song means to you, or
nostalgia,
or like there's loads of stuff. Like there's a song there's a song. What is it? If I hear Dreams by Gabrielle, right, it always takes me back to the same place. Because when I think we had like the high school dance or whatever at the time, so that was like your own closed day. That was the last day of school before the summer break. That song was playing as this girl was like asking me to be her boyfriend, or like, and that song. Every time I hear that song, it takes me back to that place. Yeah. So is it a song that I would play in my car? No. But if I hear it, it takes me, like, there is an attachment to it because it takes me back to that point. So there will be preferences based on where you heard something, what it means to you personally, and that is totally fine. Like, no one can talk shit to you if you have a special reason for liking something. Like,
there you go.
It's what it is, right?
There you go.
But the difference is, I'm not telling someone that that song is the greatest song ever because of my personal attachment to it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That's the difference. So I'm not enforcing my belief onto somebody else. I'm just saying that a certain song, not that song in particular, but a song. Like if I hear What's My Name by Snoop, that will take me back to my parents' living room where I'll be sitting literally in front of the box, watching that video get repeated and rinsed. And every time I hear that song, it takes me back to that living room. So there's going to be songs that or I hear a reggae tune and it takes me back to them blues dances that we used to go to that start at 1 a.m. and finish at 11 a.m. You know what I'm saying? And you're leaving and it's bright as hell outside and you're doing all kind of madness in the dance, you know? Like, so there's going to be certain tunes that come on. Like if you're at a concert or whatever and someone plays a tune, the crowd's going to go crazy because that song that they're playing right now, it means something to them at that point in time. So that's the reason why people know the words and, you know, they'll sing a song at the top of their lungs or whatever because of the personal meaning that song would have. But you can't enforce that onto anybody else. That is yours. That is yours to own. Those moments are yours. And I think with things like with bias, a lot of it comes down to sound as well. Like if you listen to a lot of the Southern producers before kind of the whole trap movement, a lot of their production was very like bass driven, like T-Mix, like he's one of my favorite producers. Like he's like I made April, MJG, T-La, Swath House, all of that stuff. Like he was their main producer. His bass lines are incredible. Like his soundscapes is so clean. It's the best way I could put it. Like Shine and Recline by MJG.
Oh, bro, dude,
like,
I love
that beat is incredible. Like if you listen to the bass line of the song, so like exactly, like I can't play that song once. I just can't. I have to play it multiple times because that song is just incredible. So producers like him, and then rappers like Scarface, and like there's just so many like dope rappers from the South. So I would never talk shit about the South in general because there's a load of people that I like from there. Goody Mob and that hot, like look how talented Organized Noise and the Dungeon Family. Like look at the lineage of talent in that one crew. So how could I ever talk shit about the South? Then we go to the West Coast. So as much as I love Primo, as much as I love Boot Camp Click and all of that kind of stuff, the hard, gritty, Timberland, New York Puddles, all of that kind of stuff, love it. That's me. That's my soul. But then Warren G, right, would make Regulate, or Dre would make Let Me Ride, or These Nuts. MC8, completely different sound to anything that's going on in New York. I love all that shit too. Love it. So I don't know. I just I don't understand how people could close their minds to some of that stuff that's just amazing.
Yeah, and even in the own, like, even as you're talking, I'm listening to what you're saying, and even in the pockets, I'm thinking, even within the South, like within any area, you see what I'm saying? Like, even if you take London, you speak to someone from North London, it's sound different to someone from South London,
right?
You see what I'm saying? And it's the same city. You look at, like, you're mentioning artists from the South that you like, and I'm in agreement with those. But as you're saying it, I can think of a bag of Southern artists that I can't make it through an album for. Do you see what I'm saying? And they're all from the South, or from, you could have one Atlanta rapper that I love. You could have another Atlanta rapper that I can't make it through. So the point we're making is it don't make no sense to have a bias for a whole coast or a whole region or a whole, because even within that, even within that, there's pockets of stuff that you're going to enjoy or not enjoy. But one of the key things you said there was when you're nostalgia or whatever, for whatever reason, it's your preference, but it's when you try and force it on others. I don't unfollow people or stop connecting with people for opinion. I don't do that because everyone has their opinion, is entitled to one. But I had to do it today with some guy because 50 is his favorite. I love 50. I like 50 a lot, probably more than a lot of people. He'd probably be in my top 10, believe it or not. If not, then he'd be like 11, 12. But he's there for
super close. Yeah.
Super close, right? But also I understand all the arguments that people have why he wouldn't make their top 10, and I'm cool with that as well. Don't bother me because it's my top 10. I don't care about it. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
But this person loves 50, and that's cool. But so many times he will put whole threads out why 50 is better than everyone else. Be like, oh, he's better than Jay-Z because of this. He's better than Nas because of this. And it's like, it's all opinion. Like, it's opinion. We're not talking about, we don't care about record sales, but I'm saying we're not talking about record sales because record sales is something you could pull on and say, well, this person sold that much, this person sold that much.
Even
There's
then,
some kind of
even then, it's
because it can be falsified.
Farms and all of that. So yeah,
it can be falsified, definitely. But if you get what I'm saying in regards to, there needs to be something factual that you can pull on, right?
Yeah.
If you take it to sport, then you could say, oh, who's better, LeBron James, Michael Jordan. Ultimately, you're going to have your preference of maybe how they play, but you can possibly also look at, well,
how many
Jordan's won this amount of, you get me? So you can say, if we're looking at facts, but you could still say Jordan's won this amount more than LeBron James, but you know what? I prefer watching how LeBron James plays.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? There's things that you can pull on factual statements. With music, you can't do that. Don't give me a thread about why this person is better than that person, because if I speak to 5 other people, they're going to counteract your statements with a rebuttal because they don't agree. There's no room for that in music. Just say why you like someone. Don't state your facts as to they're better because they, bro. You know what I'm saying? And for me, I think it's so important to understand that, because I think you touched on it before, is that it brings a closed-mindedness when that's there. So I'm saying, so who's going to speak about the bad things? Like, is it a good or bad thing? Bias. And I know for sure what's funny is that sometimes us as recipients of music or consumers of the music can think certain people ain't doing a certain thing. I remember in '96, right, in school, one of my school friends' uncles was some kind of promoter, road manager, something like that, for some of the American artists when they come over to do shows, right? And it was '96. Someone was over, or he was over there somewhere, but he was with Snoop's team and Snoop in some kind of, I want to say tour bus, some kind of travel, something like that. Yeah. The reason I'm a bit reluctant to say it with much confidence is because I can't remember if Snoop was over in '96. So, but it was something around that time where he was with Snoop. '96, right?
Went to Brixton, then yeah, he was.
So it's probably that. Thank you. So it's probably that. Because I've actually never been
before '96.
Okay, it might have been earlier then, but
yeah. But I know
I say 96. Right, yeah. The reason I say '96 is because Hell on Earth was out. Yeah,
right.
And Snoop was listening to Hell on Earth in the in his bus or whatever it was, and the person was speaking to him, and he was saying how much he loves Mobb Deep and how much he loves the Hell on Earth album. Yeah, I've said interviews before about, I think it was Charlie Baltimore on Faith, talking about how much Biggie was listening to the 7 Day Theory album. So I'm saying,
how much Tupac was listening to Nas as well.
Tupac listening to Nas. So as much as we think, oh, these guys, as much as they're throwing up the W all the time, and you know, West is the best, and going on like all they support or listen to is their own, you'd be so close-minded if you didn't embrace what was good from other areas, other regions, other sounds. You see what I'm saying? And they're doing it.
Don't you think that contributes a lot to what we were talking about last week's show, where a lot of the sound is exactly the same? Because a lot of these guys are only drawing from what's around them. They're not drawing from any other genres or any other coast or anything like that. And kind of leading on from what you were saying, which was so true. Even if you're in the South, Houston hip hop sounds totally different to Florida. Will sound totally different to Atlanta. Do you know what I'm saying? So you'd have someone like Slim Thug or UGK or whatever. They don't sound nothing like Outkast. They might both have like a southern drawl, like when they speak or whatever, but their music doesn't sound the same. Like I wouldn't mistake a UGK album for an Outkast album. Do you know what I'm saying?
Never.
I wouldn't mistake T.I. for Slim Thug. I wouldn't mistake Boss Hog Outlaws for. Do you know what I'm saying? So there's so much different music in that. Like, so what you said was spot on. Like, how can you then be biased for something that where their sounds are totally different?
Yeah.
Queens rappers will rap differently from Brooklyn MCs.
Yeah, whole sounds different.
We've had that debate for years. Like a Queens rapper, like Nas, Cool G, or whatever, will rap differently to Biggie and Jay-Z because will rap differently from Southside Jamaica Queens. It is what it is.
Totally.
So how can you?
Yeah. 100%, man. And this is why I say it's important not to be closed-minded. And yes, I've said the word 1,000 times today, but it's preference, understanding preference, and also understanding bias. You know, understanding that I prefer this thing, but it never means I'm not going to want to listen to something else just because I prefer this. So I'm saying, ultimately, we like what we like, and that's just how it is. Like, you never have to give an explanation for why we like what we like or whatever. It's just what we like, and sometimes there's no explanation. We just like what we like.
You're right. Is there a song where you're like, well, I don't even know why I like that shit, but I like it?
Right. You see what I'm saying? I mean, for me, I really struggled with a lot of the Master P sound. You know what I mean? No Limit. But do I respect him? My respect for him and the whole movement is through the roof. You see what I'm saying? So I know what he done for hip hop and what he done for his area. So do I respect him as a hip hop icon and legend and cornerstone? 110%. Would I throw on a No Limit album? Probably not. I don't know. I've said No Limit and just made it very broad because they probably got like 1,500 artists. But you know what I mean?
Yeah. That's some good shit.
You know what I'm saying? Like, but there's songs I like. So even though I might not particularly make a beeline and throw on a Master P album and listen to the whole thing, Master P's got some tracks that I love. See what I'm saying? That are on my playlist or that I listen to, but I might not want to listen to the whole album.
Right.
I'm gonna go there. Kendrick Lamar, right? I know he's hip hop's savior and god at the moment, and everyone loves him up. I respect him, I do, but for me, I think he does too much with his voice. Like, he does too many weird voices for me, and it's an off-put for me. So, do I like what he brings? Do I appreciate his content? Do I appreciate his artistry? What he's bringing to the art form? Do I appreciate the cruelty of what he's doing? His shows, his love for the culture, 100%. But for me, he's not someone that I really make a beeline to listen to a lot because there's certain things about his style that's not to my liking. I don't prefer it.
E40 for me. That's like E40.
yeah. Exactly. Good point.
I just can't do E40, man. I tried to understand it. He came on. I was listening to a song the other day, and he came on as the feature. And in me, bro, I tried. I swear to God, I tried to listen to this guy. I just couldn't do it. I physically had to reach for the thing with my steering wheel and stick that shit. I was like, I don't know. And the worst thing is, like, I tried to be tolerant, but I just couldn't. So it's not. But like you said about P, I've got mad respect for E40. Like, the stuff he's done outside of hip hop is amazing. And to be honest with you, it should be championed a lot more what he's done. Like, not only with regard to the words that we use every day, little things like, was it him that come up with "Keep It Real" or like, there's so many different phrases that we say just regular every day today that all came from him. There's that. There's his wines and stuff that he does, his ice creams, and like, he's a proper businessman. His catalog is insane. Like, he's just got so many albums and double albums and this and that, and like, I can't not respect him. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, as a man in hip hop, I cannot ever say anything bad about him. Can I listen to his music? Absolutely not. But I got respect for him. Do you know what I mean? So it's one of them.
Yeah. No, and it's true. I get that, and that's the thing about E40, and it kind of goes back to. I mean, the first thing I heard from E40 was "Sprinkle Me," and I know he probably had an album or two before that.
Yeah,
But the first thing I heard was "Sprinkle Me," right? When I heard that song, bro, like no lie, it's funny how people change. But when I heard that song and he came in, I'd be more hipper than hippopotamus and all that. I was like, what is this? I used to take the piss out of that. I used to think, what is this? But over time, I actually love that song now. And I have a lot of respect for him. I actually do. It's mad. When it dropped in '95, bro, it was comical for me. Like I didn't take it seriously one bit. But now I love the song. You see what I'm saying? So I don't know, times change, but
can't do it.
I don't know. But it's kind of like what you're saying about not Young Thug, Future last on one of the other episodes. The thing that I rate about E40 is that no one ever, anywhere, at any time can say he's not original. You see what I'm saying? Or that he copied their style or whatever. So you have to rate that.
And no one can copy him either. No one can try. People try and rap off beat.
Exactly.
Not even try and rap off beat. He doesn't rap off beat like a Silk the Shocker does. Like it's almost like he knows where the beat is, but he does whatever he does. But other rappers, they're just not on beat. Like there's a difference. Like his style is off beat purposely. There's other rappers that are off beat because they're shit at rapping. I don't think he's shit at rapping. I think that's just
his style.
His like slanguage. His like it's like how the old pimps used to talk in it. They used to kind of come up with all these crazy like sayings, and he just manages to fit that over beats that don't quite fit for me. I like my stuff to go like this, right? There are some rappers where they're kind of all over with, they play with the beat and they kind of go in and out and their flow, and like Ghostface, for instance. Like Ghostface isn't always like totally on, but the way that he raps is still on. Action Bronson's another one. He's off, but he's on. There's loads of rappers like that, and I think that's an incredible skill. SD Knack is another one where he'll just be rapping, and you're like, how are you doing this? Like, how are you finding these pockets to rap in? Graph is another one. So there's loads of rappers who do that, but for him, nah. It sounds messy. It sounds like the best way I could describe it to me is it's like a messy bedroom. It's like you've got a great bedroom, but there's just clothes and shit all over the floor. Your bed ain't made. You know what I'm saying? There's plates in there from last week, and there's cold pizza under the bed. It's just a fucking joke. It's a mess. Like that's what listening to his music feels like to me. It just feels chaotic.
Oh wow, never gonna hear the same. That's actually hilarious.
It's very chaotic.
But there's a good point, because we just spent a few minutes talking about the respect that we have for him. Do you know what I mean? But he's not to our liking. Nothing to do with preference, because we've also said earlier in the topic, in the episode, there's so many artists from his exact area that we love as well. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. So it's just literally about preference. If you're bringing something original to the table, then okay, you know, we respect that, definitely. Like the whole Future discussion, I don't rate Future like that. But like we said, have to rate the fact that he's brought that original.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, we know that obviously auto-tune wasn't original, but the way he's using it in hip-hop or what have you. So yeah, man, it's all about understanding and having that balance between preference and bias and embracing whatever comes your way. Another example, exactly. Another example I'd give is that a preference for me, I like drums in hip-hop, like you mentioned before. I like drums in hip-hop, but shout out to Nums. He does a lot of production, a lot of drumless production, or he's done a few, do you know what I mean? But he mixes it up. But I like a lot of the stuff he's put out, so I'll always make a beeline and listen. And a lot of his drumless work I actually really enjoy. But if I had to choose, do I want drums in my beat? It would be a no-brainer for me. I'm always going to say, yes, I want drums, please. But there's definitely some drumless tracks that I enjoy. So I'm saying that's preference versus bias. I'm not going to say I don't like it. So that again?
What killed it for me, but on that exact point, was Ransom. Because I remember listening to Ransom when he was rapping over beats, right? And I was like, this guy is dirty, right? Then he got with that Nick Craven guy, and then then he was rapping over some drumless shit, and I was like, I can go with that because he's still rapping at a high level, cool. But I'm not feeling the production as much as the other stuff. Then he dropped Chaos Is My Ladder, and V-Don put him over some beats again. And I was just like, this Ransom, I'm sorry, but this Ransom right here is way over.
That's my favorite. That's probably my favorite project from him in a long time, bro. Like seriously, that production is insane.
Yeah,
because can he rap is a no-brainer in it. Can Ransom rap? No-brainer. We know he can. He needs beats though, like that whole Nicholas Craven movement with the no drums. Okay, cool, but bro, I don't want to hear poetry with backing music. Do you know what I mean? That's what it feels like to me. It's like, do you know what I mean? It's like I might as well go to a coffee shop, like a open night, poetry night. That's what it feels like.
I liked a lot of his drumming stuff because to me it sounded like I don't know, it makes you concentrate on what you're saying a bit more, which is fine. I'm totally cool with that.
Yeah.
But when I heard him over drums again, I was like, he just sounds like a different animal. It makes a difference. But I guess that kind of leads in nicely to the last point, which is as we're talking about all the love we have for all the coasts and all the different countries and all that bullshit, what would you say? You don't have to give a number, just give like a few of your faves from kind of each kind of coast, London included or wherever else.
Okay. Yeah. So obviously we're talking coastal hip hop, so America, East Coast, I'm gonna have to go at the usual suspects. Obviously most people know by now, Jay's my favorite of all time, but might not be a current favorite because of the output, but you know what I mean? He's always gonna be my favorite of all time. Big definitely goes without saying. Gonna go Ghost, but I'll broaden it and say Wu-Tang. For the East, I just love that whole gritty New York sound. Primo's my favorite producer of all time, but obviously for the East Coast. If I had to pick one region, though, I know you mentioned before about the East between the boroughs. It's always tight. It's always hard between like Queens and Brooklyn, but I'd probably go with Queens because just that sound. It's just I just love it, man. So yeah, if I had to pick, they'll probably be the standouts for me. Your usual suspects: Wu, Nas, Mobb Deep, Gangstar, love MOP. You know, they're like the original suspects. Love all that. MCs from the East, so probably Flea would be still someone I'm checking for a lot. I love this last project. Yeah, Griselda, them guys, you know what I mean? But yeah, so that would be East. South, some of the favorite South artists, definitely Scarface, definitely Outkast. Ludacris, I don't think he gets enough props, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He doesn't get enough props. Word of Mouth is an incredible album back to back. Yeah, he don't get enough props. He's just a skillful MC, man. He's very, very good, man. Yeah, I never really Jeezy I can stomach. I'm not really big on the whole Geechees and those, but you know, but those really be the ones from the South probably that I'd make a beeline for to listen to. West, I was going to say before, Ab-Soul was actually who I prefer out of Kendrick's whole movement. You know what I mean? TD and that. I only mentioned that because I was talking about the whole preference thing, Kendrick's voice and different things like that. Preference again. So yeah, Ab-Soul, love. Snoop, I'm always going to mention Snoop. He's, you know what I mean, second favorite hip hop album of all time, Doggy Style. Obviously your usual suspects, your Dre's, your Cubes, obviously those. Schoolboy, I like a lot of his stuff as well. There'll be standouts for me that I'll go for. Midwest, and this is just throwing them out, obviously. Midwest, early Kanye, always going to be someone I rate, early Kanye production and albums. Twister, definitely got a lot of love for Twister. Another guy, he don't get enough props. Do or Die, I think they were dope, man. I like them a lot. The two albums that they dropped anyway. They might have more after, but
they got loads now. Yeah. They got loads. Their first.
Okay, two. Yeah, I only checked the first two. I only really gave them a listen, so it'd be interesting to hear what they dropped after that. But yeah, obviously. Did I say Royce? Eminem definitely as well. We've had this discussion earlier. Eminem was a complete monster. Do you know what I mean? First 3 albums, complete monster. London, UK, I should say, just to take it out of America for a while. Sway is always going to have a special place for me. There's just something I love about Sway. For the same reasons I love people like Kanye and I didn't mention Little Brother as well. But yeah, I just love when a movement is dominated by a certain sound or content, and artists can bring something different. Do you know what I mean? And I feel Little Brother done that tremendously. Kanye done that as well, and I feel Sway done that for the UK. Do you know what I mean? All the talk that was going on and the content and all that. I thought Sway brought a lot of fun, a lot of depth without having to bring the gangster talk. I don't think he even swore once on the album. I think that takes skill. Do you know what I mean? So Sway's an MC that I rate lyrically a lot. Klashnikov, probably one of the best to do it. You know what I mean? Yeah, he's incredible, man. Mike Righteous, another one, heavy MC. But yeah, there's a few. Kano, obviously. To sound biased now, I'm going to mention Wretch 2, obviously for home team, Tottenham representative. I genuinely think Wretch is one of the best to do it as well, man. He really is. When he's in his just rapping bag, because sometimes he floats on the whole commercial side a little bit just for the hits and that. He's got kids to feed, I get it. But when he's just in his rapping bag, yeah, he's one of the best to do it, man. You know what I mean? And yeah, and a lot of love for the whole Meridian movement anyway. A lot of love for Boy Better Know and all of that as well. It's just good to see, man. But so many people I haven't mentioned, but just to throw out some that came to mind for mine. So at you, bro, what would you say for some of your East, West, North, South?
For the East, I'll have to go for my biggest influences, I guess, would be Native Tongues. I'd have to go with them from a kid. They are Tribe. Then I would go for Juice Crew. So Ace and Marley and Cool G. And, Big Daddy Kane. BDP was big for me. Boot Camp Click. Wu-Tang. Redman. Queen Latifah. Flip Mode Squad. Love Flip Mode Squad. Busta Rhymes, like one of my favorites. So yeah, MOP. So rappers that can Onyx as well. I've got a lot of time for them. Their first 3 albums are incredible.
Agreed.
I think they get overlooked because a lot of the animated rappers don't get recognized for their ability as much as they should. But I've got, as I've just listed, a load of those type of rappers. I've got a lot of time for them. And then obviously Biggie, Jay-Z, Nas. Biggie's my favorite of all time. I just don't think anyone's matched what he did at his age. Like, if you listen to what he was talking about, the way he could go in and out of pocket, and just everything was just perfect for me, like with him. On the West, I will go with Quick. He's one of my favorite. Like, his production is incredible. Like, if you listen to, and he plays instruments too. Like, he's not just a button pusher. Like, he actually plays instruments. Like, he's super talented. Pretty much, yeah, the whole Death Row family. I didn't know they were a crew until I saw it on the BET. I had no idea.
What is that?
Yeah, that was crazy to me. Who else do I love on the West? Oh, cannot forget Raskas. Jesus Christ.
That
guy is something else.
I've
got a lot of time for Daz. Daz's production, I don't think gets enough respect. That man has made some incredible beats. Like, that's stand the test of time. That still sound dope today.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, so I got a lot of time for him. South, I love 8 Ball and MJG, man. I just think that they're so dope. I think they're like the perfect rap duo. Like, MJG is so raw, and then 8 Ball just floats on the track. Like, it just fits perfect. And their beats, like, they just picked like some amazing beats as well. Got a great discography, so I like them a lot. Outkast, I like a lot. Obviously, like, their first album is one of my favorite albums ever. Like, back to front, just beats, raps, everything was just there, just perfect. I really love Goody Mob's debut album, Soul Food. I didn't like much of their stuff after that, but Soul Food I could play back to front like all day long. Love it to death. UGK I like a lot. Ghetto Boys, I had a lot of time for Ghetto Boys. They were raw as hell, but I really like them. Midwest, I'll go for The Brat. I really like the Brat. I thought she was
good shot.
she was a really good rapper. Had some dope
Mm-hmm.
songs, really good albums. I really like Twista as well.
Mm-hmm.
Dilla is one of my favorite producers, like
Mm-hmm.
in life. I think he's incredible. Got to put the Far Side on for the West as well.
Yeah.
First two albums, stunning, both of them. South as well, got to go for Little Brother. Need to throw them in.
Yeah.
They're probably again one of my favorite groups of all time. And for the UK, I really like Children of Zeus. I love their stuff. Kano,
I haven't heard them.
they're really good, man. They're really, really dope. Sort of like hip hop / neo soul.
Yeah. A couple songs, not much else.
Yeah, you should dig them out, man. They're really good. Kano is probably my favorite UK rapper. I really like Gets, Kalash, Kalashnikov. Wretch is my guy. I really like him. I'd say that those are my fave UK MCs. So yeah, like all across the board, like I can enjoy, bits and pieces everywhere. Like I remember when I was in Mauritius and I was listening, they've got their music is called Sega. And some of that shit was so hard, bro. Like some of that shit was so dope. And I'm just like, I could appreciate it like wherever it's from.
That's what it is, man. Yeah, man.
So I hope that we have covered enough for the discussion with regard to bias, man. It's just so tired, man. Let's just get over it. Let's just enjoy music for what it is, rather than where it came from. Do you know what I mean? There's just so much dope music out there. Not so much this year, but hopefully that improves in the latter half. I've got a lot of hope for the latter half of the year. Let's see what happens. So yeah, man. Hope you enjoyed. As always, join the discussion. Please do have a look at the comments below and disagree with us, agree with us, whichever way you want to swing is fine. And we'll be back next week. Special guest lined up. Can't tell you who it is, but do tune in as always. And always, man, thank you for supporting us. Thank you for the comments and the likes and the shares and everything else, man. So we're steadily growing. Looking at where some other people started from. Some of these dudes have been doing it like 10, 15 years, bro. And we're literally like, you know what I'm saying? Like we're a few episodes in. So it's just dope, man, to see like, more people are kind of seeing it and stuff and interacting. So big up to you guys for that. Love to you guys for that. So for this week we'll be out, but as I said, we'll be back with a special guest in the next episode, man. So from me, we're out, and my boy, co-host extraordinaire, what's happening, brother?
Yes, we're here once again, man. Appreciate you checking in with us, man. Like Slack said, all the love, the comments, the shares, the retweets, the likes, the just taking the time out of your day to watch or listen to the podcast, man. It means a lot to us. So we hope you're enjoying it. If you've got any ideas as well or topics you'd like to see us discuss and different things like that, hit us up, man. You know where to find us. But yeah, other than that, My Type of Hype, the podcast that celebrates hip hop and not just the hype. Happy hip hop 50th. Keep it hype. Stay blessed, and we'll see you next time, man. Peace.
Peace, guys.